Hello everyone, hope everyone's doing good. There is a lot of people out there that don't have a religion right now. They see Christianity as, but just following rules and are only worrying about what they'll have to give up without really considering what they can gain. Most people think that freedom is being able to do whatever you want, but they don't think about the consequences that can take on you. Things like drinking, smoking, or doing drugs, living a sexual immoral life, or any type of sin takes a toll on you physically and spiritually. Christians aren't forced to do anything. We're not forced to give up these things. We're not technically a religion. We're followers of Christ. So we choose to give up these things because we want to be more like Christ. That's why there's a lot of lukewarm Christians in the church, because they follow the religion by going to church every Sunday, but they don't follow Christ and live a holy life. And so I'm not judging anyone, because that's how I was when I first turned Christian. I would go to church every Sunday, but I was drinking and partying the night before. So it's not because you have to. It has to be because you want to. And God doesn't tell you not to do these things because he wants to be a tyrant. He does it to protect you. Just like a parent protects its child and tells them not to do certain things because they don't want to see their child be harmed. And it's the same way. God created us, and he knows every single detail about us. Just like Steve Jobs created the iPhone. He created the iPhone and gave us instructions on how to use it, and gave us instructions on how not to use it. And even the tags have those little symbols with the slash across it that indicates not to do it. And so Steve Jobs did not give us those instructions so to tell us what to do. He's trying to warn you what can damage the phone. So God isn't telling us to stay away from sin and from these substances because he wants to impose his will. If that were true, then we wouldn't have free will to begin with. He does this because he knows it's bad for us, and he knows the negative effect that it can have on us. The devil knows this as well. His biggest advantage is our ignorance. In Hosea 4:6, it says, "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge." The devil studies us diligently, and he watches what our weaknesses are. From there, he uses our triggers, which would be, however, maybe depression, anxiety, anything like that, to drive you to your sin. Because, everyone has a different taste, if you would say. Like, some people like drinking, some people like weed, some people like meth, some people like cigarettes. So, it varies depending on the person. So the devil does his homework and then tries to push you into whatever it is that you like. It's like he throws all these things at you. That's why you experiment a lot when you're young. And so he throws all these things at you to see what sticks. And he puts traps everywhere you go to try to push you back into that sin and push you back into that sin, creating a cycle. For instance, when I was trying to smoke weed, I don't smoke weed anymore, But when I first was trying to stop, I would go 1 or 2 days without smoking. The devil then would create, a storm in my life. He'd give me like a super stressful situation, or he'd get me depressed or anything like that. He would make these feelings in me so that he could drive me back into sin. And so before you know it, you're under the devil's yoke. He creates that cycle for you to keep going back. He makes you feel all these negative emotions to, again, push you back into sin. That's why a lot of people become addicted to these things, but it's really the devil working in their life. Jesus says in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all of you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. All of you take up my yoke and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for yourself. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So a lot of people don't want to follow Jesus because they don't want the burden of giving up the things that they like, when in reality those are the very same things that are wearing them down. And the devil's yoke is a lot heavier than Jesus's yoke, and people don't even realize it. But Jesus can set you free. Even the mature Christians, which are the people that have grown in Christ, can testify that they're no longer driven to do the acts of their past. They no longer have that desire to sin. And it doesn't go like automatically. It doesn't disappear automatically. You have to work it. And deliverance is also key on this. Like, for instance, your taste buds, they're replaced every 2 weeks. So if you stop eating certain foods for that amount of time, after 2 weeks, you'll no longer have the craving for those foods. So you have to resist the temptation. Remember that if you resist the devil, he will flee. After some time, it'll become easier for you. And it's not something that's impossible, because we were all children once, and we didn't rely on all these things to make it through the day. It's in our own best interest to go back to those childish roots, because that's when we're closest to God. If you're not under Jesus's yoke, you're definitely under the devil's yoke. So I hope all of you who are weary and burdened, that you guys come to Jesus, because who the Son sets free, he's free indeed. God bless.